moving on to the second sticky note now. Let's talk about Toronto. There's We have a lot of great charts in this episode about Toronto, about Calgary, about Edmonton, and we're kind of comparing what's going on in the GTA Toronto market and what's going on in the Alberta, Calgary, Edmonton market. So let's go through it. This Toronto is, let's just say, suffering a little bit. How's that? Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, something Toronto is struggling, particularly, in the condo market. Let's, call it for what it is. And there's a couple charts that really show that. And the condo market is just getting beat up right now. And, ultimately there's a supply issue. There's a closing on completions issue. There's just a lot of things going on in that marketplace. And by the way, rents are coming down. There's so much on the market right now. Rents in the condo market in Toronto, in some buildings in Toronto, have come off quite a lot. And so these are the issues that we're dealing with. And I think from an investor's point of view, within the REIN community, at least, JG, we've always made it really clear is that game is a game you can play if you really know what you're doing, and or you've got a great realtor behind you. Now, the problem is that wasn't the case. A lot of this, we have said many times, it's not investors. These are speculators that, blew up that whole condo market. And, here we are today.
Well, here's that chart, Patrick, you were talking about, which is months of inventory. Right now, the months of inventory are over 5 months, about 5.5 months of inventory. And this is the highest since the great financial crisis of 2008, where there was 6.5 months. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, there's one other time in 2012 where we got to 4.5. But other than that, Patrick, this is in fact the highest, in terms of inventory, months of inventory that we've had in the condo market, and we're seeing this kind of reverberate throughout, as you said, throughout the market, and a lot of people who speculated years ago. By the way, the deals that are closing now in 2023, this is speculation from 2018, 2019, Patrick. This isn't people that speculated a year or two ago. These projects are 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So these are decisions that people made in 2018 that are coming home to roost today. And that's important for investors watching this show to realize, because the decisions you're making today in the condo market, if you're buying pre-built, those decisions are going to come to roost in 2028. So you got to look that far out in the condo market, and that's not easy to do.
No, it's not. And this goes back to what we just talked about with the Bank of Canada. This was, how many investors were even buying 3 years ago when rates were lower. And then again, Tiff Macklem, governor of Bank of Canada, looks into the camera and goes,
rates will stay low for a very, very long time.
So if you're making decisions based on that, which I think many did, you basically got sucker punched. And this is where the condo market was hot. We needed, and it was necessary. There was a lot of building going on. There was a lot of rental demand. There was a lot of demand overall. And, then the game changed. And so, what can you say about that?
Speaking of building, Patrick, here's a great chart that shows housing starts specifically in Toronto. You can see what I find fascinating about this chart, two things, is how much rentals are up. Rentals are up significantly and have continued to power through. Single family is actually turned negative now. And of course, this is Toronto. We have to understand, Patrick, this is normal. I think this is a natural progression of the Toronto market. You just need density. You're not going to build single family homes in Toronto. There's no place to put them. You have to build either condos or rentals because there's just no place for the single family. And I think if you compare this chart, and we'll compare it to the Alberta chart and what's happening in Calgary, very, very different. We're out in Calgary. There's a whole lot more land mass, and this chart's completely different in Calgary because you do have room for those single families.
Well, and this is where the mistakes are being made in Calgary. We'll get to that in a minute. But ultimately, to your point, JG, Toronto is Toronto. I mean, it's a whole ecosystem and a whole environment on its own. And within that, there's a lot of micro markets. So all to say this is Toronto's a very standalone kind of look, and rental market is what we need. But having said that, there's still a lot of supply that's now into the market. And by the way, I think the condo supply, I think you're going to see that months on market, a month or
months of inventory.
Months of inventory. I think you're going to see it. We're going into, December, January, February, which are historically quieter months. I mean, people get interested, but I think you're going to see that months of inventory go higher.
Is this a Patrick prediction right here, right now? Is this a Patrick prediction that months of inventory is going up? It's currently at 5.5. Patrick, where are you putting it? Give me a number. Are you going?
Well, I think we're going to break 6%. I think we're going to break 6 months. I think we will
break
given
6
the time
months.
of year.
All right, breaking 6 months. Patrick prediction. You've heard it here first, folks.
Yeah,
We're rating in. We're breaking 6 months of inventory on the condo market in Toronto. Mark your calendars. We're going to revisit this January, February this year, and we'll see where it's at. Patrick, a couple other things on the Toronto market. Sales to new listing ratio, which is what determines whether or not we're in a buyer's market, a balanced market, or a seller's market. I mean, we went from a rip-roaring seller's market, Patrick, and we have went so fast into a buyer's market. It's absolutely crazy. But I want to remind people, because 40% or less is a buyer's market, 60% or more is a seller's market, and anything in between is a balanced market. Check this out, though, Patrick. We've been in a seller's market for quite some time, but I do want to remind people, look how much it's gone up and down since 2021. You went into a seller's market, then you went into a buyer's market, then you went back into a seller's market, and now you're back into a buyer's market. So just want everyone to take a breath here, Patrick. People just freak out, and real estate is a long-term play, and this is something that will work its way through the system. But it's an emotional time right now for people, Patrick. There's a lot of freaking out going on.
Well, I hope that people see that, we keep looking at the data around it, and, we have to keep looking at the information, not from a house buyer, a home buyer, but as an investor. So this buyer's market, JG, although this is about Toronto, you and I know because we spend so much time with DI Vault and we're looking at the technicals of many cities in Ontario, we start to realize that this is a buyer's market in other centers where there is great opportunities. And so if you're an investor, this is exactly the time that you should be looking for deals. So scary, I get it, but it's and it may even feel counterintuitive. But the reality of it is people, why are we chasing deals in the highest market? That's the energy, that's the emotion, right? So if we come back now, this is some great opportunities. And JG, I know that you've had the opportunity to get a couple of great deals done because of it.
Well, you're absolutely right, Patrick. And in fact, even as recent as today, I had someone in my office talking about this fantastic deal where he was able to pick up a great mixed-use building that had some commercial, had some residential. He picked this building up for probably 10% under market. He figures he got a 10% discount on it. Plus, the seller was willing to offer a 65% VTB on the property at a below market interest rate. And I'm thinking, man, you would have died and went to heaven if you got that deal done 18 months ago. Today, those deals are out there everywhere, and everybody's sitting on the sidelines crying in their soup. It's not time to be crying in your soup. It's time to be out there doing deals.
100%. If you like what you learned here, go to the description below and subscribe for our free Insiders newsletter, where you can also stay up to date for our upcoming events and our courses.
If you want to see more stuff like this, click here. If you want to see the entire show, click there.